welcome to this new video. Today we're going to talk about Kubernetes network policy. What is a Kubernetes network policy? So Kubernetes network policy is just a mechanism that we use in Kubernetes to actually constrain who should talk to the pod. We know in a cluster we have port-to-port communication enabled. Now you can restrain which pod should talk to your application. So this is very handy. So you want to limit communication between other pod and your application, or between your application and other pod, right? So you're going to use something called Kubernetes network policy. Specify how pod or group of pods should be able to talk. So let's say, for example, if I have 4 applications on my cluster, if I don't want those 4 applications to communicate between them, I just have to place a network policy with a restriction, right? So that they don't have to communicate each other. So network policy is just like to restrain communication between pod to pod. And then we have you can restrain communication in ingress, meaning incoming traffic, or in egress or outgoing traffic, for example. So I will do a little bit demonstration so that we understand how the network policy works. So here I have a deployment. I'm going to deploy this, and I have this network policy that says deny all. So I will play this network policy on this deployment. It deny all. As you guys can see, if you look at this section here, match label, it is actually matching this label here. So what is going to happen is that I'm going to deny all, meaning that we will not be able to access this port, right? Meaning that we will not be able to access this port. If we curl this port, we will not be able to access it. For example, right? Then I can even try to put a service. I can try to place a service on that. So let's create a service and put on that. So let me bring up the service. So let's try to add a service here. Okay, we can put it somewhere here. So we have that service. Let's give the service the same name. And that service will be actually tied to this. Now, let's deploy this. But type QCT, I get port. Do I have any port? Nope, I don't. So let me vim into this file that we have here. I'm going to empty that file first, and then I'll vim into it. That's it. So this is going to create a service, a deployment, and a network policy that deny all. QCT apply -f this. Good. Let's say QCT get all. We have a service here, and we have that now. So QCT get network policy. Network policy. So policy. Oh, I put a network policy in the namespace called default. So I need to remove the namespace so that it gets scheduled here. That's why. So let's vim into that file. And my network policy, I put it under default. I am not on the default namespace. So let's remove. And then let's reapply this. So get network policy. We have that network policy, and it's looking at this app equal this. Now, what does it mean? This. Let me create a pod. Let me create a pod and see if I can communicate with this. So let's say kubectl create deploy. Let's start with create deployment. Let's call that deployment. Let's create a deployment called Kubernetes -- image. Let's give the image nginx, for example. It's going to create a deployment. Like so, kubectl get pod. You guys will see that I have this pod running here. Now I'm going to say kubectl get services. I have this service here. Normally, I should be able to curl this IP address from that port. So kubectl, let's exec into the port, exec -it. Let's exec into this port. Say bash. I am inside the port, as you guys can see. Now, I'm going to say curl. Let me see. Okay, if I say curl, if I curl the IP address, if I curl this IP address, it will not work. It's not working. Now, because we have deny on now, let me exit here. Let me do ls and let me say hem install, for example, I want to install one of this chart. I'm installing one of this chart. Now, if I tap qctl get port, I have a port here called Detroit. If I type qctl get service, I also have a service here called Detroit. Now, let me exit back into my port. Exit back here. If I say curl, if I curl our deployment, I will not have any response. But if I curl the Detroit deployment, I have a response. I'm having a response on the Detroit on this Detroit service. Why? Because I didn't put any network policy there. So when you don't place any network policy, it means allow all. As you guys can see, I can curl this, but I can't curl this. Why can't I curl this? Is because I put a network policy here. So you see how I was able to block the network policy, right? I was able to block the network policy actually here. So let me exit, for example. Let me exit, for example. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to deploy another. I will deploy another application where I will call this network policy. Then I will ask the network policy to let me curl from this port. So I will curl from this port. I will deploy another port. Then for the network policy, I will deploy another network policy placed on the other port, saying that I want to curl from this egress from. I want to curl from this, and it's going to work. So let's come down here, and then let's just say vim net.yaml. Get there. It's going to create another deployment called nginx qctl apply -f. Yeah, qctl get port. Now, as you guys can see here, I'll just create another port in the test because the deployment name is test. From the test port, I will be able to curl. From the test port, I will be able to curl our deployment here. Why? Because in the network policy, we said ingress from. We allow any app having this app nginx. That's what you see here, app nginx. So qctl exec -it. Let's get into that port. Let's give a port name, and let's just say bash here. Now, I will go get the curl earlier. This IP address, let's try to curl it. Now, if I say curl, that IP address still not working. Probably I didn't define it correctly. So let's come here. And oh, I have a deny all. I have this deny all still on. That's why I have that deny all still on. Do I need to delete that network policy? kubectl get network policy. I need to deny that network. I need to remove that network policy. Deny all. So here, and the other network policy, where did I put it? I think by mistake. Oops, it went to the default namespace again. So it went to the default namespace again. So let's vim internet. Let's go remove that. Because earlier I made a copy from the other one. And we are going to reapply that. Then we reapply that. Then we will exec back into the port. And we will try to curl. Let me get the IP address of that. You try the same curl. This time around, it should work. Why? Because it is allowed. If I curl, it works. Why? Because it is allowed. Right? It works. Why? Because it is allowed. So now if I show you the network policy, I'm going to have two network policy. The first network policy deny all. The first network policy deny all. The second network policy allow from a specific port. So from a specific port, I can curl, but from other port, I can curl. So that's what they call a network policy. This is how you dictate which application should access, which port should access your application. use network policy so that if we actually segregate those, if we decide which port we should be able to access your application. I hope you like the video. Please go ahead and subscribe if you have not done so. See you guys in the next video. Thank you.